discover liberation just have vastly different understandings of what liberation is for.
I haven't seen this much importance and attention.
The story itself is a really wonderful, really great setup.
Tractor beam has been engaged.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Tractor Beam Comics Reviews on the Star Wars Underworld Podcast Network. Today is Wednesday, July 31st, 2024. It's the 30th week of comics in 2024. I'm Matthew. I'm going solo tonight. Chris catching up from San Diego Comic-Con, and I said, he was all, I got to edit all his videos, and I said, go for it, edit, do the work you got to do. So I'm going to fly solo tonight. Got 2 books by Greg Pak all about Sith. Just happened to be a bit of a coincidence. We're going back a week, and we're going back 9 years for a whole other book, as you can see in the description below. First off, get the quick plugs out of the way. You can follow us Twitter, Instagram, and Threads. The main podcast at Iron Cannon Pod, EYEONCANONPOD. That's the main podcast that Joel and I do. I guess this is not a secondary podcast. This is just the other podcast, but under the Iron Cannon umbrella for social media purposes, at least. You can follow us there, Twitter, Instagram, and Threads. Of course, you can follow Chris Abbott at Starraptor, STARRAPTER, for all his social media, especially on Twitter and YouTube. He's gonna check out all the awesome San Diego Comic-Con footage that he has, and of course on Outer Rim Transmissions. I don't quite know if or when he's going to be recording that, but can drop him a line at Starraptor and ask him and check that out. He will be back next week on the Tractor Beam, so please do check that out. Check it next week. Of course, this past Monday, Joel and Ash and I we talked about The Acolyte on the Iron Cannon podcast. That was Monday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Pacific, right here on the Underworld YouTube channel, and everywhere you get your video podcasts. There was a great conversation, again, picking up on that show. So check that out right here. It's right here on the Star Wars Underworld YouTube channel. Finally get the quick plugs out of the way. First of all, also to say I'm taking a break from Iron Cannon, but I'm not taking a break from Tractor Beam. I'm going to keep going with that. So again, Chris will be back. We'll be doing the dynamic duo, Tractor Beam duo, next week. So please do be sure to check that out. Quick plugs. Last but not least, the Star Wars Underworld Discord server. I guess this is not last but not least. I'll get to one more plug after this. Star Wars Underworld Discord server. You can check the link in the description below. I'm in there. Chris is in there a little bit. Joel and Ben are definitely in there. A bunch of other folks, a bunch of regulars, chatting mainly Star Wars, but also Marvel, Star Trek, all that fun stuff. Probably should get some more Olympics chatter going there. Why not? You never know. So join there, and go there, tag Joel, ask him what his favorite soup flavor is. You should do that. That's your homework for this week. Nobody's taking me up on that. That's the one thing. Nobody's taking me up on the offer or the homework challenge for the Discord server with Joel. But one day someone will. There we go. Also, 2 more plugs here on the Star Wars Underworld YouTube channel. We have YouTube memberships. We have super chats. So if you do drop a comment in the comments below, in the box below, then we'll do our best. I'll do my best to incorporate it into the flow of conversation. If you give a super chat, if you support the channel with the super chat, I'll pop it to the top of the pile. Definitely get to it as soon as I can. Get to the comment as soon as I can, and that'll be be good to support the channel. We're always grateful for any help you can offer, and of course YouTube memberships as well. Should look into probably Twitch memberships. We're on Twitch. I see the Twitch icons right there. We're live on Twitch as well. So please do feel free to support us, and comment, share, like, all the usuals. All right, I think that's it for plugs for now. I'll pick them back up at the end of the show, end of the podcast. This probably won't be too long because I'm just flying solo, but we'll see what happens. I got thoughts on these comic books. First up, it's Get this up here. Make sure I got this right here. This is Darth Vader number 48, written by Greg Pak, art by Rafaelienko, colors by Federico Blee, and you see that cover there by Lynell Francis Yu and Romulo Fajardo Jr. Luke joins the dark side. It is said that there can only be two Sith, the Emperor and Darth Vader, but could it someday be Palpatine and Luke Skywalker, or Vader and his son? The handmaiden Sabe finally tests Luke with Warba's life in the balance. The Schism Imperial reveals its hidden hand. And that's kind of a probably hidden hand there. That's an interesting clue. You're saying, everything that happens with I don't think that's quite on Exegol, but how Vader, he's risking with this crystal and risking everything with about to fight the Markor, and his droid says, "No, I told you so. I told you so. This crystal is going to backfire on you." Vader, he's something. I don't want to say something's off about him, but he's definitely more aggressive and more willing to risk in this, right? More willing to risk his own safety. Maybe he knows something about these crystals that everyone else doesn't, including the droid. The main thing I want to say about this book is you see Luke right there on the cover. This book really earned Luke's place in this story, earned Luke's place in this comic book. The story itself, you bring the character in who's off doing something else entirely in the ongoing comic, and hopefully they've thought about and talked about Greg and Charles and the whole team have talked about where they line up in terms of the timeline, if that necessarily matters in between. What it does matter is this book, especially, with Luke in it being tempted by the dark side, his origins, his identity, and his destiny, everything that gets played out in Return of the Jedi. Is he going to join the dark side? Is he, this whole script here, right? Or this description. It's literally, I think Sabe is asking this, is it going to be, is it Sidious and Vader? Or was it Vader and Luke, or Palpatine and Luke? Again, we see that played out in the third act of Return of the Jedi. So this book, especially with two to go, really driving home the point that it's moving towards the story of Return of the Jedi. Just a thought there, I wonder if the ongoing comic, and I'll get to that in a little bit, if that's setting things up for the comics that we know are coming after Return of the Jedi. I said after Return of the Jedi, coming in October and later. So that's an interesting kind of division of labor there in terms of timeline. And I think it's that kind of helps clarify, yes, Luke can be in comics narratively sort of in two places at once, in terms of you can have a book that comes out one week, because this came out last week. The week before, of course, ongoing, I believe 48 came out the week before that. So this one again focused on, is Luke ready to face Palpatine and Vader? What does it mean for Vader to say that Luke isn't ready? Has he fully given into anger and hatred, as he's tempted to here by Sabe, who shoots at him, and he can defend himself, and he's sensitive to how Warba's life is in danger because of it. Is that what he means? That if he stops being sensitive, then he'll be ready? Maybe on the surface. I always wonder with Vader, how much of Anakin is starting to poke up. Everything to do with Luke is Anakin poking up to the surface and saying, oh, he might actually fold. And Anakin, this attempted forgotten character that Vader is attempting to forget but can't. Anakin saying no, he's not ready because he needs to have the resilience and the clarity of mind to be able to face Palpatine and Vader. The what Obi-Wan and Yoda say in Return of the Jedi, don't go or whatnot, and he goes anyway. That kind of timing that Luke needs. Now, you can ask the question, is anyone ever truly ready to face something like that, even in our own lives, to face our big challenges? Yeah, and yes and no. I mean, we don't fully know what we're about to face until we do. We don't know what's within ourselves until we do, and that is the story of Return of the Jedi. That Luke discovers who he is, and this brings me to my final point: is we finally get this canon in universe thing that people think about all the time. That you know we with now this is this weird sort of, I'll get to what I mean, is think about all the time. Sabe says, or Luke says, I'm not like my father. I'm not my father. And Sabe says, yeah, maybe you're more like your mother. And I've always wondered about that. I always wondered how that works. Joel kind of had a good way of uh, telling me, yeah, Leia is definitely more the go-getter, hot under the collar, gonna take charge. Luke is kind of the gatherer and the one who plans ahead and thinks ahead. Mon Mothma has to tell Leia, we're forming your government. I think about that one all the time. Mon Mothma being the mentor to Leia that Palpatine pretends to be to Vader. With Luke, yeah, he has this nurturing side to him that we see in the ongoing comic with Leia. We see, with Warba here, we see him having that sense of the well-being of everybody that Padme very clearly always had, even to the extent at the expense of her own well-being. Unfortunately, tragically, at the expense of her own well-being, she goes to Anakin, to Vader, and tries to change him and tries to turn him. Luke, at the end of Return of the Jedi, recognizes who he is. He is the son of Padme Amidala, and he's the one who can finally bring out the good in Anakin, bring out the good in Vader, bring Anakin back. That we keep talking about, and this comic really brings it to the fore. This is one of those things where, watching Return of the Jedi in 1983, we don't necessarily think that. After watching Return of the Jedi after 2005, Revenge of the Sith, we start to think of it a lot because, we see what Padme did, what Padme tried to do, what Padme was unable to do because Vader was just so full of rage and hate at that moment. It's the son of Padme who can turn Anakin back from the dark side, and to see this in a canon story, like physically can see this. Here's the book, it's right in here. That really, really effective plotting with by Greg Pak to bring Sabe in. I don't know how much he had planned this out. He might have had this sorted out, but to bring Sabe in so early in the story, and to remind Vader of who Padme was, and then to bring Luke into this story and have him interact with Sabe, that really pushes things forward and really really ties this whole run together. Yeah, it is about Vader because this is the title character, and he's still the one driving the action. He's still the one saying no, Luke isn't ready, and he's clearly they're playing up this the way that weakened defense against remembering Anakin, right? That's what Greg Pak has written in this book and written this story, and it's coming to an end, and it's coming to a good end, but it'll be sad for it to go because it definitely stands up with the Gillen and Soule runs for Vader, and in part because it's doing what it needed to do over these 50 issues, is show really the return of Anakin Skywalker in the subtle way, in the not obviously not to the full extent that we have to see in Return of the Jedi. Had to leave the final act to the film that the story that George Lucas gave us in 1983, but gets us to this point. And this book especially does a lot of legwork just in these 20 something pages, a lot of legwork, and throughout this whole arc to get us to that point. So it's funny, I have this in the background. I'll bring this down. Have that moment in the background. Kieran Gillen, number 6, right there. And we're coming all the way. This is from 2015, and we're coming all the way 2024 to the great moment, of course, from 1983. But again, the great moment that this is all leading up to on the bridge there. I'm a Jedi, like my father before me. That, but also I'm a caregiver like my mother before me. And for for Sabe to bring that out, she was the right person to bring that out. All right, that's all I got to say for this one. Let me take a swig of water here. There we go. Moving on, because gotta have more Sith. There we go. Darth Maul, black, white, red. Let's get that there. First of all, I'll just say this cover goes so hard. Like all the covers in this book, in this run, this is the 4th issue of 4, have gone so hard. Really well done, really played up by EM Gist. I think he's on all the covers in this one. So diving right in, this is Darth Maul, black, white, red, number 4, also written by Greg Pak. Art by Luca Pizzari, Will Sliney, Jay Lyston, and Roberto Poggi. Colors by Andreas Mosa, and of course cover, as you can see, by the inimitable EM Gist. I'll bring it down now, so you can see the whole cover, even though I don't usually do it yet. But where is the darkest side of the Force? An assassin in the shadows, a forgotten temple, a quest for silence. Why does Palpatine send Darth Maul to an ancient world, and who pays the price for patience? And I guess this book was kind of surprising for a few reasons. Well, I guess the main reason was that for the ending. You think after 3 issues where Maul has kind of failed to grasp a lesson, or has partially grasped the lesson, and Palpatine comes and says, "Well, you got this far, but you got to do more. You got to figure this part out," and is never fully satisfied with him. Kind of gives him a break at this point. This one, it's structured very nicely, structured very clearly. Maul is sent to this planet has the Sith Eternal logo, so some interesting little lore here with an ancient Sith temple, and the stirrings of the dark side. And I wonder if that's sort of exemplified in just all the commotion that the innkeepers, the rival innkeepers, have with each other. And this pirate guy who comes is like, I just want to go get drunk and then gonna go party with my bowcaster blaster or whatever in the woods here. And then poor Maul, he just wants to take a nap. He just wants to meditate. He just wants to chill. And I'm not being serious there about poor Maul, but yeah, it just again, the ending is a little, okay, what are we supposed to think about what he ends up doing? Basically ends up killing a bunch of people who disturb his patience and wake him up from a nap. Maybe it's a bit of an allegory, just thinking now, the price for patience, the price for peace. Palpatine at the end of, or when he declares the Empire, we shall have peace by Death Star. This is Darth Maul's the Death Star in miniature, maybe a little bit. He's going these little nuisances, little inconveniences, little squabbles, and the fist of the Sith comes down upon them, and in spectacular fashion. And again, you see this cover. I'm just admiring the cover. I just got distracted by the cover. It again goes so hard with the red. At first, I thought it was Crate for a second, but no, it's this other planet. But yeah, that showing in this one has more effective use of the red. Andreas Mosa, he had a very specific task with these black, white, red books as part of the black, white, red book. I really, really enjoyed how Maul looks sort of mechanical, and not mechanical, but I'm trying to describe it. He looks, it's almost more of an anime style, I think. I'm not an expert on that, but he looks more muscular, almost more of a jock. And it was a really cool design, not Ray Park's face, or in Sam Witwer, Peter Seraphidus's voice. Of course, we're reading that. We could hear Sam Witwer's voice really well in this. That's good writing by Greg Pak and company. But yeah, just the design by this team of artists. I mean, Luca Pizzari and Will Sliney, I think, did the lines, the designs. So yeah, that was cool. It isn't exactly photoreal, and that's That's unusual for me to appreciate that, but I tend to like more photoreal style. But this one, yeah, it brought out sort of this quest for serenity through coldness. Maybe it's a very cold design for Maul, and that's maybe the lesson that, at the beginning, um he had, Palpatine has this dialogue with him, you know saying, you gotta know when to fight and know when to just let things go. Of course, being ruthless, and congratulates him for killing the servants of his enemy, and being aware of that. Here, yeah, it's more this cold, almost calculating side design to Maul, and that cold, calculating, selective. Who does he prop up? He props up the innkeeper who leaves him alone. The I guess the poorer innkeeper, oddly enough. So maybe, and that's the thing, is that was the missing element to Maul's journey, his training, his skill set, was the ability to be restrained and to be calculating. And not that he's that restrained in this, but his ability to be clear about what he's doing and not so driven by rage. Because that's the thing about the Sith, is it's not driven by rage, it's controlling rage. Like, they want to control everything else. And the problem is that rage is very difficult to control. And so they tend to not end up doing that, and that tends to be their downfall. But when they can be victorious, when, like Vader, when he can stand and fight against the Markor, um, when Palpatine devises the trap for the rebels in Return of the Jedi. Of course, everything with Palpatine, his entire journey, his entire story, is harnessed rage in very calculating, clear ways. The only time he's surprised is he is bringing back full circle. It's still in my head. It is when Padme has to go back to Naboo, and when Padme's son chucks his lightsaber away. Those are the two times he's really surprised, and two times he's kind of thwarted and beaten in a little bit. I mean, the first time he's able to pivot. Second time he's not. He gets pivoted off the off the ledge. So this, yeah, you could say, was this a drawback of this run? Was it? I don't know. I mean, to say, well, what was it a drawback of this run to say it was used to explore themes about the Sith, period, about the Sith that would come later, like Dooku, like Vader. I mean, Dooku is all calculation. He's not very passionate. Again, he's only taken down when he assumes he's going to be at Palpatine's side, and there's this young upstart named Anakin who has him in his sights, and of course Palpatine says, kill him now. That's, again, the other side to things. And so, maybe a more passionate Dooku would have been a better ally to Palpatine. I don't know. Again, it's a question with this book, is, did it give Maul enough of a distinctiveness as a character? Was that its mission? Was that its goal? It's Maul training. So maybe not. Maybe that's Maul being trained in the ways of the Sith, us as an audience being instructed, informed in the ways of the Sith. Hopefully we're not being trained in the ways of the Sith. Just, we saw Osha being formed in the ways of the Sith. Or we will be, hopefully, in season 2, Renew the Acolyte. So yeah, that all in all, a pretty decent run. Again, the art style, it was a little too, again, I expected a bit more of a provocative art style for the Black, White, Red, but something that comes from Black, White, Blood, the Marvel Black, White, Blood. But again, maybe that also underlies the training wheels here for this run, for this character, who never really, I mean, does he ever really grow up? And that's the thing about Maul. He never really transcends any sort of, I mean, he has this calm, calculating, he develops that, but he never, I mean, he's always holding on to the rage of Kenobi. So yeah, good run. I'm glad they did it. Glad they went through. Hope they do more. Not too sure who else more they would do. I mean, this was the obvious choice. I mean, his skin is black and red. So, uh, there. I'm trying to think. I mean, black, white, Sidious, black, white, red, Dooku, black, white, red. That would be kind of interesting. Maybe go back. Maybe maybe a whole new Sith character or an Inquisitor. Maybe Kaiza, black, white, red. Someone like that. That would be interesting. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what they end up doing. The Vader and then Maul are the two that make the most sense. So I'm glad they did that. But we will see. We will find out in this new era of storytelling. Although, Kaiza or an Acolyte of the Beyond or an Inquisitor, that would make sense given the era of storytelling that we're about to move into after Endor. Who knows how, of course, for how long that era is going to be, but I think we can fit one in there. This is the second one. They can fit a third one. I'm curious to see what the sales are. I think the reprint of issue number 1 was canceled. It's not a good sign, but I'll have to confirm that. I saw something about that, but yeah, decent enough run. Glad they did it. See what else they do next. And of course, Greg Pak. Writing Sith. He writes Sith well. So it's going to be. Okay. One last water break here. As you admire that cover. Admire that cover by Ian Just. It's fantastic. I'll even take that off. There we go. All right. Last but not least, time to go back in time. Time to go back in time to the year 2015. And of course, there's a reason why I'm looking back on this comic book. Let me get looking back on Princess Leia 2015. I mean, I got the single issues, but I also Dollarama coming in hot with the trade dress, the trade here just for fun. I snagged that too, just for the heck of it. It's safer to keep your single issues, your older single issues in a thing. It's 9 years. It's old enough. Yeah, and of course the reason I'm doing this, looking back on this and took the time to read it, is because we know in ongoing number honorable 49, but certainly in 50, but also in 48, brought up the Alderaan fleet, the fleet of Alderaanian survivors that have been floating away in hiding from the Empire ever since Alderaan went kaboom. And so yeah, I thought to go back and look at this. So yeah, let's do that there. So I'll do the old treatment. This was written by Mark Waid, art and covers by Terry and Rachel Dotson, and colors by Jordi Belair for I think it was a 5-issue run. Let me confirm that. Yeah, 5-issue run. Yeah, that came out from March to July of 2015. And this is the description for issue number 1, which came in March 2015. So a few months after Skywalker Strikes. So kind of a little bit in. When Princess Leia was captured by the Empire as a rebel spy, she never betrayed her convictions, even in the face of the complete destruction of her homeworld, Alderaan. When her rescue came, she grabbed a blaster and joined the fight, escaping back to the Rebel Alliance, and helping strike the biggest blow against the Empire, the destruction of the Death Star. But in the aftermath of that victory, the question remains, what is a princess without a world? Writer Mark Waid and artist Terry Dotson bring us a story of Leia's quest to help her people and find her place in the galaxy. And so kind of doing the usual treatment, because this is, I read this well before I was going to even have any kind of Star Wars podcast. So interesting to go back even before, just as I was getting into reading comics. And so I kind of, oddly enough, I struggled with how she could be in the main run and be in this other side run. So I was confused in different art styles. And looking back, I'm glad I read this again a few weeks ago, because yeah, it really is just a wonderful comic, a wonderful story. I said on Iron Cannon, and I think also on Tractor Beam, we forget that Leia, forget everyone's from somewhere, and we forget that Leia is from this planet called Alderaan. We know, Claudia Gray has given us this wonderful story about her teenage years, and then of course Kenobi series has her as a child, and with Bran and Bail. Yeah, she she comes from a context, and she comes from a an unusual to us context of real respect for traditional authority, and yet expressed benevolently. It's this weird thing. I mean, I guess High Republic is exploring that a little bit as well when it comes to religious authority of the Jedi. But you see, and you see in this book introduces us to Evan Verlaine, who is a pilot in the Rebel Alliance, also Alderaanian, and was trained by Breya to be kind of in her inner circle. So she has this respect for Leia. She treats her as Her Highness and calls her Her Highness, and I mean, kind of similar to the Naboo thing, right? The courtly authority that, like this description, raises this question: what does that matter now that Alderaan's destroyed? Now that those all the institutions, all the context, the people, the land of that place is gone. Who is effectively the Queen of Alderaan? What does that mean? And for Leia, it's clear she has this clear sense of duty and responsibility that we don't see explored enough. And this is kind of my point. She has a responsibility and duty to her people. Now, it's important to say that she doesn't say, I'm going to just protect me and mine. She does jump out and join the fight. And that is how her parents raised her. Of course, the Royal House Organa is funding this rebellion from day one, supporting this initiative that ends up becoming incredibly dangerous, incredibly treacherous to the Empire, and of course it's why they get destroyed. And knowing the risks, knowing the danger that it could possibly happen, something catastrophic could happen, and yet Breya and Bail continue to take the fight to the Empire and support it as best they can from within the institutions that they can. And then, of course, outside the institutions. And Leia, we know, is free to go outside of them. Here, of course, she joins the fight. And, that is the values that she carries. So it's all the more important then. It's all the more justified, all the more legitimate that she then can take this side mission and say, okay, we're all grieving. We're all devastated by the loss of our home. What do? We regroup. We find the lost children of Alderaan. Find everyone who's scattered. The poor banished children of Alderaan, if you will, and gather them. And that's what this story does. It explores, including the controversial parts. And I really found interesting how, there's this kind of this other planet, this offshoot planet that where Alderaanians went and they mixed, intermarried with this other species effectively, and they become a new species. They become of this diaspora colony, and Leia, of course, is saying, "Oh yeah, if you want to be part of this, you're going to be in danger from the Empire. We'll help protect you. If you want to kind of rejoin your people, have a deeper connection to your people, you're welcome to. Even though you look different, they look orange, I think." And so she sends Yvonne, I believe Yvonne, and this other diplomat called I forget what, like the archivist, not the archivist, the person who's supposed to curate the history and preserve the I think it's the preserve the history of Alderaan. And this preserver person, she's downright xenophobic. She's all, who are these offshoots, these impure Alderaanians? We don't want to have anything to do with them. See ya. And we see Leia confront and have to convert this person to being more open and being more caring. It's another expression of, okay, this complicated planet, this whole planet of people. Of course, there's going to be different ideas, different views. How does the Queen of Alderaan effectively, who could be within her rights to be more fearful, more, and by within her rights, not necessarily within her rights, but we see people with authority, people with power, be more working to preserve it. and Leia, preserve it by preserving a uniform identity. And Leia in this book, she doesn't do that. She's more welcoming, and this character, this other character, this preserver, Leia has to convince her to be more diplomatic at least. And so that's another great example of Leia taking on this responsibility to gather the lost souls, the lost fleet. There's this really interesting kind of cloistered monastery on Naboo of all these singers, and they have to come out of hiding because they'll be in danger too. And they don't have to. There's never coercion, but it's welcome. And the experience circumstances probably make it necessary. So, this really fascinating exploration of what does Leia do with her responsibility to her people. What does she do with her responsibility? Not just her responsibility, but with her own grief, the loss of her home. Fast forward, of course, to 2024 and the beginning of issue number 48, ongoing 48. She feels guilty and is holding on to this guilt that she's had for all these 5-6 years about did I am I complicit in the destruction of my home planet, or was I put in an impossible situation? And even if rationally speaking I can see I'm not complicit, there's still the kind of the residual effect, residual anxiety over that. And of course, Luke, being this mother and gathering character, Mother Hen here, is trying to encourage her, and Yvonne's there, and they get trapped. Of course, being trapped. This is issue number ongoing 48 in 2024 by Zara. The one life sign that Zara uses as bait is, of course, the protector preserver, the same character. And now that person's dead at this point, but it's a good reminder. And it was surprised to actually come back and read this book because I've forgotten who these characters were. But to say, okay, what's the story? How have things evolved? How has Alderaan reconstituted itself and survived in these people? I mean, it's almost it's kind of a new Asgard situation as well, right? Similar in that way. That the home, the place lives on in the values of the people, and has there been a better integration between these different diaspora communities, and what do they have to do? Do they join the Rebel Alliance? Are they at Endor? Are they still on the run? Again, I'm wondering, once the Emperor's gone, and once once Palpatine's good, and in the aftermath, if they become more free to be in the open, is there going to be more sense of Alderaan and its contribution to the New Republic? And that's another big question in going forward, and I'd love to see explored. Because again, sorry, I've spoken a lot here. Again, there's we think of Leia, Leia as rebel leader, as princess, as general, as all these titles that she has. Princess of what? Princess, leader of these people, and the specific people that everyone's from somewhere. And so it's great to be reminded that she's from the somewhere that instilled her the values that really buffeted and gave birth to the Rebel Alliance. I mean, you can also, of course, talk about Chandrila, but with Mon Mothma, but you have to talk about Alderaan with Bail and with Rhea and with Leia. And so thankfully Charles Soule is picking that up and telling that story at the end. Again, I think speculating a little bit, but with an eye towards what how they might be involved in the future. Because again, if there's no more Empire, or if the Republic is setting up a place of refuge and a situation of safety for Jedi and for Alderaanians, and those are the two things I'm fascinated to learn. Is again, what is Luke up to now that he's free to be a Jedi in the open? what is Yvonne and the rest up to? What are they up to now that they're free to be Alderaanians in the open? Alderaan survives. So great to look back on that and the ideas that were brought up. It was also very moving. I should say it was also a very moving comic. I remember reading that last issue in 2015 and then reading it again a few weeks ago. Very poetic. It was effectively ends poetically in yeah, just in this stance. I mean, Alderaan survives. Alderaan survives. Alderaan continues, and what that means for the galaxy. And so, again, glad to look back on that. Glad to be inspired by that in our times in the real world, where the real world we've forgotten what common cause and what the potential for a healthy civil life can look like. Who are the people? Who are the helpers? Who are the, even as leaders, who are the helpers? One thing I forgot to mention, the really important character dynamic here between Leia and Yvonne, and that is, at first Yvonne is very deferential, and Leia says, "Stop calling me princess. Just give me your opinion. Shoot straight. I need a friend here." And that's also, again, part of. I mean, it's part of why we forget that she's princess. Part of why we forget, because we're seeing all these character stories, and we have since 1977. But it's also been her approach, and it is this weird Alderaanian. Yeah, they're a royal family, but they're benevolent royals. They're really have the best interest of people around them at their heart, and whoever they encounter. And so that in miniature is the values of ideally at their best, the Rebel Alliance and the New Republic stems from this Alderaanian egalitarianism. Oddly enough, a monarchy, but it's a very egalitarian-minded monarchy that I guess maybe can only come to fruition now that Alderaan's destroyed, because they have to have discipline, they have to have cohesion, but they have to basically be a commune. Of course, Leia and Yvonne don't actually know where they are until they have to go rescue them. So we'll see what that story goes. Hopefully they find them. Hopefully that works out, because I want to see more in the post Endor era. I want to see more new Alderaan fleet. So there's that. So that was the books that I looked at. Speaking of looking ahead, just the next week though is Inquisitors number 2, High Republic number 10, High Republic Adventures number 8, and Return of the Star Raptor. Inquisitors looking, and really interested in that Jedi character and what his motivations are, and how that really affects and challenges and brings out what the Inquisitorius is about. And that's kind of what that I remember issue number 1 doing, what this book is going to be about. High Republic Adventures, number 7 ends on an interesting cliffhanger. Just about, well, first of all, especially with Crix, what side is he on? What's he doing? What's his plan here? And how is he going to actually turn on the Jedi and the Republic that he was claiming to be a part of? Probably, but you never know. And then of course, with the two, Cord and Zint. What's Zint's role? How does she deal with being caught up in all this, and how does everyone around her deal with there's this kid in this middle of this battle? Good old High Republic for you, kind of things that they deal with. And of course, the finale of, oddly enough, this first volume, first arc, first run of High Republic Phase 3. And of course, Skier has almost entirely gone to the dark side. Sarret, or is it Tarek, is what's happened to them. We don't know. And then of course, Lorna. We know Lorna is going to be moving towards the light, but of course, ultimately, how does Kyiv deal with all of that? So, of these 3, I'm definitely looking forward to High Republic 10 the most. It's the story I'm tracking with the most, and of course, Kyiv. Thinking about Kyiv, and of course, Chris and I are going to talk about that some more next week. I'm sure we will talk about the audio play and everything and all the announcements from February. So yeah, because the return of the Star Raptor, and we'll talk about all the announcements from San Diego Comic-Con, including some book announcements. We'll get to the Reign of the Empire books as well. But until then, please do check out your local comic book shop. Get to the plugs here again. Yes, you can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads at IonCanonPod, EYEONCANONPOD. Next Monday, 5:30 p.m. Pacific, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, Joel is back. He's going to be around. He's got a guest on. Again, more reflections on what canon is. And Star Wars as an integrated canon. And so, yeah, be sure to check that out. And then Tractor Beam again will be here. I don't quite know what the flagship is doing. I know they're all kind of out and about in California and other places. So keep it tuned on socials at the SWU. Of course, check out the Ray side and everything Chris is up to at Star Raptor, STAARRAPTER, Substack, Star Raptor at substack.com, and his YouTube channel, Star Raptor, of course, on Twitter at Star Raptor as well. So to see what he's up to and what he's got going on with Out Around Transmissions and all his comic book recaps and everything from San Diego Comic-Con. He told me he got a whole bunch of footage. So that was fun. That was looking forward to having him back next week, but that's all we've got for now. Again, wrong thing. There we go. Inquisitors number 2, Powerbook number 10, Powerbook Adventures number 8. Stop by your local comic book shop. Of course, you can get all those on digital. Sorry, 1 second here. Talking a mile a minute. Get all those on digital, but of course, support your local. Pick up the single issue physical copy. Support the brick and mortar stores. They're small businesses. We could always use your help. Until then, happy reading.